Hey everybody, welcome back to the 6 round post-fight show with me, Zane Simon, and my co-host, as always, Eddie Mercado. We are here once again talking about this week's UFC event that just wrapped up in Las Vegas, Nevada at the APEX Center, headlined by a heavyweight bout between Curtis Blaydes and Alexander Volkov. And, this wasn't a bad night of fights, especially like that Emmett Burgos fight, kind of fight of the year caliber stuff.
Yeah, it was really great.
But it definitely it ended on a slow note.
Yeah, we got some cool finishes. It started really strong.
Yep.
But this is at the core who Curtis Blaydes is.
Yes.
So, what do you really expect? He took the path of least resistance here, and I think it was exceptionally smart, even if it isn't fan-friendly. But he is someone who really wants a shot at the title, and he's a guy who really believes winning and winning and winning will get him there. And he believes he's in a spot where he's done enough to earn that title shot. Whether or not he gets it, there's Ngannou out there, the only guy that beat him. He did it twice. He's been on a crazy streak lately, so he's obviously next after the trilogy. So Blaydes is in a weird spot, but he was pretty dominant here, and he was able to hold off the late surge. What's not to like?
Well, depends on who you're asking. Because I get the feeling if you're asking UFC matchmakers for putting together a big pay-per-view, there's probably, they're probably not super excited to line Blaydes up for that, especially with Francis Ngannou also right there in title contention again and already having 2 wins over Blaydes.
It makes absolutely no sense for them to fight again.
No, it makes no sense for them to fight again, but it also means, because of all this stuff, for Stipe, no blame to him. He's had a pretty good reason to be out and not fighting in the past few months.
Right.
But also, DC is at the point where he's at the end of his career, and he's like, I'm taking this fight or nothing else, more or less. And so that heavyweight belt, we're just, the challenger line is at least too deep right now. So if Ngannou goes out there and fights the winner of DC versus Miocic 3, then Blaydes is next in line.
Right.
But
we're talking far away.
Yeah, that's the thing. And the thing is too, if somebody gets injured, then Blaydes has a chance to step in. But I think
maybe though DC's not taking that fight.
No, if it would have to be if DC got injured, then Blaydes might have an opportunity to step in, or if Ngannou got injured, Blaydes would have an opportunity to step in, or something like that. But unfortunately for him, I think if he wants to fight again in the next 6 or 8 months, he's probably going to just have to take somebody else on.
Yeah. Or, he said he's willing to wait.
Mm-hmm. So if he doesn't want to fight, then he can just wait. And there's not another new heavyweight challenger on the horizon besides he and Ngannou. There's nobody we're looking at heavyweight right now who's just about to knock on the door of the next title shot. It was going to be Rosenstruik before he fought Ngannou. And Volkov was the other guy who had put together some solid wins. And other than that,
you got Derek Lewis. He's always close.
So probably Blaydes Lewis would be the fight to make if the UFC could convince them to do it,
And I hate that stylistic matchup. I really hate it.
It's more fascinating now than ever, given that we just saw Blaydes take down and dominate somebody for 2 rounds, only to start getting horribly tired and lose late rounds. One judge gave him the last 2 rounds, but the other 2 didn't.
Yeah.
And against somebody like Derek Lewis, who's out there to get held down and pushed around for 2 or 3 or 4 rounds and then storm back late with energy. It's kind of a fascinating idea.
Yeah, that is interesting.
But you would also be watching 3 rounds of takedowns and top control,
There
or
will
staring
be
at each other.
there will be small glimmers of violence and excitement sandwiched in between extreme lulls of just hugging, hugging and controlling,
or staring, or just both guys just watching each other.
There's always that potential. It's the eyes of Lewis. I'm telling you, there's something mystical going on.
Mm-hmm.
He just paralyzes people.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, unfortunately for Blaydes, this is like it's a solid win. He won the fight he needed to, but he's kind of finding himself more in, Fitch Maya territory at heavyweight right now than that Colby Covington kind of talked your way, while Covington had to get through a lot of fights too, but that, kind of, I've got an attitude and I'm going to beat all the top contenders and I'm going to make it happen.
Well, the good news is he's got his age going for him. He's really young at heavyweight, so it's really his division to inherit. So he has time. Realistically, he could sit out. He's only 29.
Yeah, I mean that he's basically a child in heavyweight terms.
Yeah, he's still learning how to walk.
That's right. So
he really could just take some serious time off and just really focus and train and get better.
Yeah.
And let the division play out the way it's supposed to, because he is realistically far away from a title shot. And it's unfortunate because he's proven his worth.
Yeah, he's putting together the record. He's got the wins. He's unquestionably a contender. And if this division's title picture were more active, then he would almost certainly be next in line for a shot right now. It's just it's what we're seeing across the UFC in all divisions are, guys in line for a title shot in that area. They're getting more and more wary about what they fight for and how often and how much they get paid and what matchups they take. And so the line of contenders just gets longer. You get guys who are absolutely there and ready, and they got to wait around.
It's nature of the beast.
Yeah. And honestly, too, though, for Blaydes, this performance should give him some pause, too. Because, that post-fight interview, he sounded like he was going to die.
Yeah, he was exhausted. He was definitely exhausted.
He was so far gone. He almost passed out a couple times. He lost his balance. His eyes got a little glassy. So
this is true. But on the same token, he also had to dig really deep and find a way to neutralize what was coming at him. And he was able to do that. And I feel like that's important also.
It is. It's a great test of his mettle. It's a great show of his heart. But it's also a question can he have that kind of fight against Stipe Miocic?
Yeah, someone who can stuff those takedowns a lot earlier in the fight.
Or put it on him a lot harder.
Yeah, put it on him harder, make him work harder for those takedowns.
Yeah. So it's a great performance that keeps Blaydes treading water right in that just barely not top contender slot. He's unquestionably the next guy in line. If DC got injured and Francis Ngannou wasn't in the right place to take the fight, then Blaydes would absolutely be the guy to get the call. But, if waiting 8 months and maybe just spending that time in the gym, maybe not the worst idea.
Yeah. I'm sure it'll work out. Like I said, It's his division to inherit. With that sort of wrestling pedigree, that's just going to be trouble for anybody, really. It's just something you have to account for, and it affects the striking. It makes you strike differently. It's his division.
Heavyweight has very few dudes that wrestle like Curtis Blaydes. I mean, they were talking about Alexander Volkov having one of the division's best takedown defense records before this fight. I didn't even think about that going in because I was like, everybody who's tried to take Alexander Volkov down is taking him down. So of course Blaydes will take him down. But it just goes to show how shallow wrestling is in that division, that Volkov still had one of the best takedown defense records, and then came in here and got taken down almost every single time that Blaydes wanted to.
I mean, it was also good to see Blaydes actually feel comfortable standing and throwing some punches with Volkov, who was so much longer than he was.
Yeah.
I mean, if he really starts to develop some striking, he can become a really well-rounded problem and championship material.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the knockout he had of JDS gave him a lot of that confidence that he could just go out there and be fine on the feet whenever he needed to be. And, you know, for better and worse, like, it was functional enough to get him through the fight, but once he was exhausted, and early on, it was good enough to actually get him ahead in exchanges. He didn't lose striking exchanges early in this fight, when as rare as they were.
Yeah,
it's just a question of once he was tired, then there was a major reversion.
Yeah, but he gutted it out. So
yeah, no, he picks up a win. He had to get to keep to keep the goal of being a title contender sometime soon alive. That brings us, though, to a fight we got to spend a lot of time talking about. Josh Emmett, Shane Burgos. This was a delicious war.
Man.
I picked Josh Emmett going in, but I'll admit, I thought if this came to the judges, it would probably be Burgos doing more work, landing more shots, having the advantage. But Josh Emmett he swings absolute hammers. Like,
yeah.
Stats will tell you Shane Burgos technically landed a few more strikes, 148 to 136. They landed almost the exact same number of significant strikes, 127 to 128. But there were more than 500 strikes thrown in this bout, and you cannot get hit 127 times by the punches Josh Emmett is throwing and win a fight.
Yeah, they're devastating. He packed such a wallop at 145 pounds, and I picked him going in because damage is the name of the game.
Yep.
He's the one that can deliver more damage, and if it's going to be a firefight, I'm going to go with the heavy hitter in that one. Yeah. And this was fun. This was fun. It gave me butterflies going in. I was like, oh, this is one of those.
I mean, all credit to Shane Burgos for being that tough. Like, you understand watching a fight like that why he depends on his chin so much. Because it got him through a whole hell of a lot in that fight.
I don't know how he did it, honestly.
Yeah.
He wasn't even bruising or swelling or cutting. Like, in the first round, he was just terminating through these punches. It was insane.
There were shots in the first minute of that fight that would have finished fights, you know?
It was wild. He definitely zombied through. But I mean, he knew it. He was like, I have to eat some to give some.
Yep.
But by the third round, those he got dropped twice.
Yeah.
And that's just, you can't, you know, that's because he leaves his chin out there to be hit. It's part of his style. It's part of his swag. But Emmett just hits a little too hard to give him those opportunities.
And carries his, like, there are a lot of dudes that hit like Emmett and have hit like Emmett over the years in MMA. Most of them, they throw like that for a round, and then that timing gets easier to sense. They slow down a little. The fight slips away from them. They gas out. They fall apart. Dudes with a chin like Burgos can afford to walk through them for a round and make them pay for it down the line. Emmett carries that power and that speed every minute of his fights. It's really unbelievable.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
And this was a dogfight, man. This was an absolute dogfight.
It really was.
But like, looking back, it's like Emmett, he wasn't really hurt as much. Like, he was wearing it and he was bleeding a bunch, and he had that weird moment in the first round, in the first sequence of the fight, where he hyperextended his knee or something, and he was kind of limping and reaching for it, but like still able to wing his punches. It was weird. It was like, yeah, my knee's injured in some way, but I can still launch this sort of heat.
Yeah, that's actually the thing that really like pushes this into real, solid fight of the year territory. Is that Emmett did all this on a really pretty clearly badly injured knee they got kicked all fight.
Yeah.
Like, Shane, it wasn't one of those things where like he injured his knee and Shane Burgos didn't see it and just didn't pay attention to it and didn't take the obvious route to victory. Shane Burgos kicked that left leg every minute of this fight.
Yeah, he tried.
Emmett just punched through it. Like, really remarkable performance from Josh Emmett, honestly.
Very gritty. And he seemed fired up afterwards.
Yeah.
He wasn't too happy with you journalists.
That's right. Hey,
Picking against him.
Don't blame us, Josh. We picked you,
Yeah,
Yeah.
SB Nation. But,
that's right. It's the kids out there. It's the young kids. It's those, fly-by-night bloggers that don't have the faith.
Yeah. What are they called? The bottom feeders?
That's right.
The bottom feeders. Yeah, man, this was a banger. I hope this won fight of the night.
It did.
Did it? That's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Not enough money, but
deserved it. No question. No two ways about it.
It was a banger.
Yep.
Definitely a banger.
That brings us to Raquel Pennington, Marion Renault, women's bantamweight fight. Really strong performance from Pennington. And, all credit to Renault. She looked like she really knew, like, I can't let everybody just push the pace on me. She came out. She was active. She's trying to get her stuff going. But Pennington still, like, doubled up on her in strikes landed.
Yeah.
It was a really impressively high energy performance from Raquel Pennington, and especially like looking at the stats, it wasn't even necessarily that Pennington way out threw Renault. They both like Pennington threw 165 strikes, Renault threw 154, but Pennington landed at almost double the rate.
I thought she looked great out there, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
she threw her punches and combinations, and she was cracking. And her tie clinch was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Renault, both of them wanted to fight in the clinch, but Pennington was the one that had a little something extra. She was the one with the venom. She was the one, getting the plum and landing the knees to the body and just stayed with it and kept attacking it. Even when her back was to the fence, she would still dig for the plum. And then from there, just kind of be patient and wait for her moments for space. And then once they were there, she was connecting, and she just did a great job of winning the fight as it was shifting into different phases.
Yeah, no, it was a really consummate performance from her, one of her best in the cage. And, I don't know that she would be like, this was a full 3-round fight. Both women threw a lot, got hit a lot, all that. So I don't know that she'd be up for it, but I'd love to see like Aspen Ladd just dropped out of a fight with Sarah McMahon. I'd love to see Pennington just turn right around and take that McMahon fight.
Have they fought already?
No, it's one of the few people at 135 that Raquel Pennington has not fought yet.
Wow. I'm surprised. Well, then, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sure this isn't a Mandela effect, or are you sure they didn't fight already?
I know. It feels like a fight that absolutely had to have happened at some point in the past, but I triple checked.
Well, yeah, then why not?
Yeah. So great performance from Pennington. For Renault, it's just, it's only going to get tougher too. She's in her 40s. She's never been a really high volume fighter. And,
she might be at the end of her rope here.
Yeah. It's 3 straight losses, all by decision, all to people that aren't necessarily as athletic as she is, but who just were able to put a pace on her.
Yeah, that's a tough break also.
Yeah.
I mean, she seems like a sweet person.
Yeah. No, she's a good athlete. She seems like a great person, fun fighter, all that, but it's tough in the UFC when you're not putting people away.
She's 43.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is her birthday. So really tough birthday present.
Yeah, that is tough. She put up a hell of a fight though, I got to say.
Oh yeah, she did.
She was really game. She couldn't just match the pace.
No. All right, let's get to a welterweight bout. Bilal Muhammad, Lyman Good, was trending for fight of the night if Emmett Burgos hadn't taken over.
Man, but, these guys deserve bonus money for this.
Yeah, they did.
This was a great fight, too.
It was.
Muhammad, man, he had an excellent game plan. He knew what he had to do. Stick and move, use his footwork. He knew that Good wasn't going to be throwing volume. He wasn't going to be throwing in combinations. He was looking for the big shots. Yep. And he was able to counter-strike marvelously and just really be on his bike and fight smart. But that is a very taxing style. And come round 3, Good was, I think it might have been at the end of round 2, when Good started to find his shots and really get himself back into the fight.
I will say, I picked Bilal Muhammad to win a controversial decision, and I scored the fight at the end of the day for Lyman Good, feeling full well that Bilal Muhammad would probably win that decision anyway, because I really thought that the shots that Good landed in round 2 were just a little cleaner, a little more powerful, did a little more damage, were a little more important. But he still lost that battle of volume. He still, Muhammad was out striking him, just edging him out in the first 2 rounds. And then Good came out and almost doubled up on him in that 3rd round. Really took him to task. But unfortunately for him, gave up that late takedown and back control.
Yeah.
Which also, probably saved Muhammad from getting 10-8'd.
Very much so.
Saved that fight for him.
Yeah, that was a gutsy performance from Muhammad. He had to dig deep and find a way to get it done, kind of like how Blaydes did. He had to overcome a late rally, and it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you had to fight up until that point. You had to fight in a way that really zapped your gas tank.
Yeah,
it's such a hard hill to overcome, and these guys had to do it to get the win, and they were able to do it against guys who were coming to take their head off.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got no hate from Muhammad stealing that fight away from Good. He had the right plan. He did the right work. He made the right moves, and Good, credit to him for a dude who is as bricked up as he is and throws with the kind of power he does, was able to weigh up his output late in this fight. It's just, that probably had to come a little earlier.
Yeah. He's got this Yoel Romero vibe to him.
Mm-hmm.
He needs to, I don't know. If he's going to do this, then he needs to find those late finishes.
Yeah.
If he's going to be reserving himself and not trying to gas and then pour it on, you have to pull the trigger and get it done.
Yeah. Tough loss for Good. Strong win strong, good, well thought out performance from Muhammad. So, fun fight. Would have won fight of the night on any other night, but
he's on a streak too. That's 3 in a row.
Yeah.
For Muhammad. He's slowly rising.
Yeah, he called out Santiago Ponzinibbio. I don't know. That's a tough fight for him. I like the call out. I don't know if he'd get it. I'd also, Neil Magny's out there is a reasonable fight for him right now.
Muhammad's always in tough fights.
Yeah. He doesn't have that big power. He doesn't have any one area where you're like, oh, yeah, Bilal Muhammad, his wrestling game, his striking game, his grappling game, one of these is a lockdown. If he gets you there, he's going to dominate. But he does everything pretty well, and he's tough, and he knows how to push a pace.
He's smart. He's a smart fighter. Yeah, I mean, look at who he's fought already. Jeff Neal, Curtis Millender, Chance Ringcounter, Tim Mean, Jordan Meehan, Randy Brown, Vicente Luque, Alan Jouban.
Yeah, entered the UFC against Alan Jouban in an absolute war for people who remember that fight.
Talk about seasoned.
Yeah. That brings us to a catchweight bout, 160 pounds, Jim Miller against Roosevelt Roberts. And
speaking of seasoned,
yeah,
Jim Miller.
Seasoned vets.
I was so happy that this happened here. Oh, and for the record, UFC is like the only thing on. There might be racing on or something. But my mother actually texted me to tell me she was watching the UFC. And I'm like, what? What are you doing? She actually watched this fight, and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely blew my mind. So it makes me wonder who else tuned in for Jim Miller versus Roosevelt Roberts.
No kidding. It was a wonderful win for Jim Miller. And
This
for
made my
Roberts,
heart
I
happy.
mean, you know, as the young kid on the come up, this is one of those fights where it was just like you made two little mistakes, and
Yeah.
they absolutely blew that whole fight up for you.
He slipped right off the bat, throwing a kick, giving up top position. Miller hit him with that old man black belt top pressure.
And then he tried to stand out of the arm bar and slam his way out. And the moment he stood up, saw that arm stretch, and I'm watching that, so like either Roberts in this moment pulls that arm out and starts whipping Miller, or he's going to get submitted right now. That's it. Yeah. And that was it was it. He got submitted. Like,
it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
The way Miller transitioned to the arm. Oh, that was so gorgeous. And just locked it up. And even the full extension, Roberts tries to pull out and Miller goes full extension. And I love the slow motion. You just watch Miller. He just starts lifting his head, looking upwards, which to him is looking towards the mat, and just full extension. And you just see the elbow kind of, it wants to poke through the opposite way. And you're like, oh, man, this was gorgeous. This was top shelf.
Even made it slightly worse for himself because he had his other arm wedged under his elbow to add that extra lever across.
Fulcrum there.
Yeah, add that little extra fulcrum to have his arm pulled over. So, yeah,
this was wicked.
Yep, classic veteran win for Jim Miller. And another fight that too, like, you don't really know where Jim Miller's at. You know, he's 36. He's been doing this for 15 years now. And he's got 4 first-round finishes in the past 2 years. But he's also lost like 6 of his, more than half of his last 10 fights.
Yeah, he's like a Cowboy Cerrone.
Yeah.
He's like a Shogun who, there's no shelf life here. He's just eternal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like if you're the wrong kind of matchup for Jim, if you give him the right opportunities, he's just going to go out and win that fight. He's not, even if he's getting a little slower or if his chin isn't the same or anything like that, and I'm not even saying those things are necessarily true, his game was never about those things. So they aren't the things, like, he's still being very much the same fighter.
Yeah, this was a great performance. A young up-and-comer, young compared to him, just getting completely schooled because he made mistakes.
Roberts is a decade younger than him,
Full-on schooling.
Speaking of our veteran this is just a veteran fight in the lightweight division. Clay Guida, Bobby Green, and I am so glad the judges got this one right.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't 2003.
Yeah.
They had to get this right.
I will say there is something to Green just sort of baked into his style that makes fights he's winning look like fights he's losing.
Yeah. It's like it's too much gamesmanship.
Yeah. There's something about it.
It makes his fights seem well, they're always competitive, let's be honest.
But they even seem closer than they are. Like, I was out there like, oh, yeah, this is 30-27 Green. He's won every round. He's done all the significant damage in this fight. And there were people like, no, Guida won these rounds. Like, certain that they were seeing Guida win. The booth is talking about like, oh, it might be 1-1. I think Guida's got, like, we don't know how this fight's going to be scored. I'm like, the striking's like 3-1 in Green's favor. The takedown, like we just had 2 takedowns, is just there's something about the way Green gets backed up, about the way that he'll like take a shot and land 2 after. But if you're not watching for the 2 after, you just see the one that hits him. It just it doesn't lead toward a convincing score. So I'm very glad to see Green get the win here in a fight that I thought he pretty clearly won, but had all the potential to be another argument for him and, moment for him to feel like he just needed to walk away from the sport because the fights aren't going his way.
Yeah, it was a tough win too, but he was able to stuff the takedowns when he needed to and let his hands go and did just enough in between the scrambles. It was a solid performance. I don't know. It wasn't like the best of fights.
Yeah.
But, it's two guys that have been around the block who, getting some of the fights filled on their contracts.
Well, and I think for Green, it was just kind of a big deal for him to get a win,
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. And the last two fights he lost to Close and Trinaldo, like he outlanded both of them in those fights. So, I think it was after the Trinaldo bout that he just said he was going to retire. And,
going back, he had that split with Venata and split with Magomedov. And, he's always in close fights.
Yeah, so I think for him, it was a pretty big deal. Even if it's not a big, meaningful fight for the division, I think it was a pretty big deal for Green to get that win and give him a reason to keep wanting to fight, Yeah,
he's always talented and always fun to watch. Yep. He's always a showman.
Absolutely. That brings us to a women's strawweight bout. Tecia Torres, Brianna Van Buren, and much like Green, an opportunity for Torres to right the ship, get back to some winning ways, prove everybody that the skid was really just all about the quality of the opposition and not about some, mental or momentum place that she was caught in.
Right. Yeah. And hey, if you look at her resume,
yeah,
the people she has lost to are that caliber is quite lofty. That's the who's who of the division,
She's never lost to somebody that didn't hold a title except for Marina Rodriguez, who looks like a future title challenger.
Right. And she looked phenomenal tonight. That first round, she started off a little rocky, but she, she was able to fight off the takedowns and go absolute, full tornado spinning kicks and twirling volume and, just was throwing with so much speed that Van Buren was just like, what in the world is this? And started to spam takedowns and, Torres looked really good.
Yeah, by the time she got into the second and third rounds, it really looked much more like the kind of fighter that everybody was so excited about on her way up through Invicta and all that. Much less the kind of cautious trying to figure out what her style is, what her form is, and more just like, I'm just going to throw all the combos all the time, and you have to try to stop me. You have to try to do something to dissuade me,
Mm-hmm.
Tripled up on Van Buren for output and stuffed takedowns, made this fight all hers, and fought with a ton of confidence as it went on, which was great to see.
Incredible effort.
Yeah.
That output made me tired. It was impressive. She looked tough out there.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that puts her back in that position of being in the mix in the top 10 and out of that gatekeeper to the top 15 role, which she was increasingly falling towards. Like, this was very much is Brianna Van Buren a top 15 fighter kind of fight,
Yeah.
Let's find out. And Torres clearly shut the door on that and did it emphatically enough that you're like, you know what? I want to see Torres in another big fight now. I want to see her against like Yan Jiaonan, somebody like that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not? Or Watterson.
Yeah.
I would be so down for that as well.
Yeah, I think she could definitely have a Watterson rematch, or an Angela Hill rematch,
Ooh. Yeah, Hill, she's on a little tear, isn't she?
She dropped.
Oh, no, she just lost to Gedalia. But
even still,
that was
Torres
a win.
Coming off 4 straight losses.
That's a moral victory. Because she put up a really great fight against Gedalia.
Yeah. That was a fight that clearly showed that Angela Hill is also a top 10 fighter right now in everything but name.
Right.
So there's some rematches out there for Torres. There are a couple new bouts out there. Like, she's clearly back in the mix as a top 10 fighter.
And that style is fun to watch.
Yeah.
It's like a berserker mode.
Totally. That brings us to a women's flyweight bout. Jillian Robertson, Courtney Casey, and this was a really impressive showing for Robertson. This was a restarting of the hype train, a reminder that there really is something special to Robertson's game, even if what is special doesn't take place when she's standing up.
Yeah, I mean, she was very dominant here on the ground.
Yep.
She knew where she needed to get the fight. She didn't need to play around on the feet. She was able to just own Courtney Casey on the ground. There was like one close armbar attempt.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, this was pretty much one-way traffic.
Yep. Really dominant, really good performance against a veteran who, like, Casey's been submitted once in her career before this, way back in 2013 by Pearl Gonzalez in her second pro fight ever. And she's fought very good submission artists in the meantime. So for Robertson to just go out there and flow on top of her and grab that rear naked choke late in the fight, Robertson really, like, she's really one of the only woman flyweights out there who has a chain wrestling game.
Yeah, that is rare. That is quite rare.
That she can follow that up with a really good, more positionally sound than it used to be grappling game with an aggressive sub-hunting style. Like, there's a lot to like in that. The stand-up may still need a lot of work, but she's putting together a style that is very dangerous in one area.
Yeah, that's tough to deal with. She looks great. And credit to Casey, because it's not like Casey was just allowing anything to happen. Casey was moving. She was, trying to improve her position and shrimping and doing everything she could and hip escapes and everything she possibly could, fighting off submission attempts. But Robertson was just a step ahead, the whole time. There was anywhere she was trying to go, Robertson had an answer for it. And then credit to Robertson for finding a submission late in the fight when she already had it in the bag. There was only 28 seconds left. She could have just wrote it out, but she hunted the submission down, and I really respect that.
No, it was a great performance from her. And it's the kind of thing over a veteran opponent like that, like I say, it reignites the hype train that Macy Barber derailed.
Yeah.
It's a much bigger win. It's a much bigger, better win than anything that Robertson's had before.
Yeah, that Barber loss was really tough. Just the way it happened.
That still showed the idea that if you can force Robertson to just stand up and have to trade with you, the boxing game isn't there. But Casey couldn't get that done, and technically Casey's a better boxer than Macy Barber. She's just not as much of a physical force.
Yeah, and Casey wasn't able to stop that takedown.
Yeah. That's, I think, really where the physicality comes in for Casey, is that, it's not necessarily that Barber's like a much better technical takedown defender than Courtney Casey, but she's a big flyweight and Casey's a small flyweight, and neither of, Casey's relying on the same idea that she can just physically stuff people, and it's not happening.
Yeah. But good for Robertson.
Yep. That brings us to a catchweight fight that absolutely broke my heart.
Aww.
Shattered my soul.
Aww.
my boy Frank Camacho getting TKO'd standing in the first round by Justin Jaynes. Jaynes seems like a cool dude. No hate to him. I just hate to see it for Camacho, because Camacho seems like such a chill guy. I love the way he fights. I love his style. but he also has a history of getting caught cold in first rounds, and Jaynes absolutely came out there and caught him cold.
Man, it's funny you say that because my girlfriend watched this and she saw Camacho afterwards and he looked so sad. She felt so bad for him just because he didn't have a single chance in this fight. He just got bombed on. And
Yep.
And it was a standing TKO. Those are always tough and totally justifiable stoppage.
Oh, yeah. No question.
My man was out on his feet. Credit to Justin Jaynes. He came out like someone only knew how to throw the special hook punches in the video game, and everything just happened to land perfectly. And sometimes it's just like that. Everything you throw lands, and this was one of those rare moments. He was throwing all the right punches at all the right time. And, man, Camacho just never had a second to get into it.
Yeah. It hurts my heart. I think this could have been a really fun war had it kept going. I think Camacho had a really great shot to win it, but Jaynes, all credit to him, he knew I've had 2 days to prep for this fight. I have I have to go out there. I have no prep for my opponent. I have to go out there and just throw hammers, rely on my chin, make this fight a dog fight as fast as possible and see what happens. And I got him a win.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how he'll look in his next fight, his approach. Because this was a winning formula.
He's definitely, like, watching his fights on the regionals, he's definitely relying on that bob and weave, wrestle boxer who doesn't wrestle kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just stepping into the pocket, squaring up a bit and throwing heat. But he's got some nice head movement. He's shown some great power even in the past. Has a bunch of recent KOs. So he's making it work. It'll be interesting to see how that carries him and whether he goes back. He was a collegiate wrestler, so he might jump back on that as his game goes on, as he fights better opposition. Or he might just go out there and brawl with everyone in his fights. So
I think the best thing is he got a performance bonus here.
Yeah.
So first time out, first UFC fight, short notice, you get a performance bonus. That's a good look. You're automatically on the radar now.
No, it's great to see. It's one of those things that I'm really, really glad to see for him. I'm always glad to see a young guy at the beginning of his career getting performance bonuses. They're the people that need the bonuses. He showed up huge. He got a really nice TKO. It was a great performance from him. So I'm glad the UFC hooked him up.
This was violent. Very violent.
Totally skipped Marc-Andre Barrio, Oscar Pichota, though. So I'm going to circle back around to that. I don't know how I skipped over that. I
figured you just didn't care for it, so you were going to not mention it.
I'm glad you had that faith in me. I was just blind. But that was the other potential bonus winner on the night. Didn't get it. Barrio putting it on Pichota, and just came out with a good idea to push a pace on Pichota, make him match it. And Pichota couldn't, or Pichota, I guess it's pronounced. He tried to play the counter game and just could not keep up with the strength and power coming his way from Barrio.
So this was Bilal Muhammad versus Lyman Good, but going the other way.
Yeah.
That's what this was. The pressure guy won out. The pressure, the overwhelming flurries ended up crumpling Pichota. Pichota,
I think.
And I mean, we saw it at the end of the first round. He was shelling up from the power. So I felt like it was only a matter of time in the second round because he didn't seem comfortable fighting off the back foot. He didn't seem comfortable moving away. He wasn't able to set his feet and really get his strikes off the way he wanted to. And it just seemed like it was a matter of time. And it was.
Yeah.
So
it's a tough fall for Pichota. At one point, he was considered one of the best middleweight prospects out there. He had this great counter left hook. He had a great back take game. But it just has not gelled into anything more than that in the UFC. And Barrio, his game might be a bit limited, but he's absolutely just an unbreakable ogre out there,
This is true.
Like, he will
Maybe
just come after you swinging leather. He's not going to get knocked out. He's not going to get subbed. He's not going to break. You have to either out-slick him the whole time, or he's gonna run you down.
he's a juggernaut.
Yep.
Maybe Pahota needs to pack on a little bit of muscle and move to 205.
Or lose some and move down a division. Yeah, I don't know about that either.
I don't know. I think he might be better off trying to go up.
Either way, whatever's happening to him next is probably going to come outside the UFC after 4 straight losses. All of them by stoppage.
That's unfortunate.
Yep.
And it's submissions and it's knockouts. So
yeah. Better grapplers have out-grappled him. Better punchers have outstruck him. Like I say, like, there were parts to his game that looked really special coming up, and they haven't gelled into a style that functions in the UFC.
Oh, well.
Yeah. All right. Let's drop down. Women's flyweight bout. Bout should have been way higher on the card. Mm-hmm. The winner of this coming out of this is suddenly in the conversation of title contenders at 125. Lauren Murphy, bloody elbow's own Roxanne Modafferi, and just a really consummate performance from Murphy, honestly,
Yeah, she did really well with her counter punching and her takedown defense and her ability to stay on her feet.
Yep.
And credit to Roxy. She tried her best. She pushed the pace. She used her punching flurries to close the distance. She put Murphy's back to the cage. She just wasn't able to get the positions she needed to win this fight.
Yeah. All credit to Murphy's takedown defense. She came in very well prepared from Modafferi's clinch game. Even got a couple takedowns herself and some sweeps in there too. Like, she just, she looked like she was really well prepared. And Modafferi, she went after it. She went through. She had her game plan. She followed it well. But if she's not getting people down, it's a tough ask to just totally outstrike somebody on the feet.
Yeah, I mean, she was definitely serviceable out there.
Yeah,
and holding her own and had some moments, but Murphy just hits much harder, and those counters were just there for her. So credit to Murphy. She's making a little run.
Yep.
She's no spring chicken.
Could absolutely fight the winner of Maya versus Jennifer Maya versus Viviana Araujo sometime soon, or even somebody like Caitlin Chukagian or Jessica Ai.
Who did I just or Cynthia Calvillo? How about
Cynthia
that?
Calvillo. Yeah.
Let's get that popping.
Any of those fights are totally acceptable fights for Lauren Murphy off this win. She's put something together. She's always been tough. She's always been strong. It used to be in the past that she didn't have any of the consistency. She didn't have any of the willingness to throw and keep her volume up and make sure that she got the better of every exchange. But she's improved technically in that area a lot. She's strong. And if you're not going to put her away, that puts her in a good place to have tough fights with a lot of the top of that division, which outside of the champ are not dominant fighters.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who she fights next. Is JoJo's not booked anymore, is she?
Calderwood is probably getting the next title shot at Shevchenko.
Okay.
They already booked that fight, but Shevchenko was injured and they bumped it back a couple months. So I expect Calderwood's fighting for the belt sometime in early fall.
Maybe they'll do that Calvillo fight then.
Yeah, could be Calvillo. Like I said, otherwise, Chukagian, or Araujo, Maya. They're ranked 7 and 5 in the division. It'll be one of somebody in that area, somebody in that range.
Good to see though, someone that's put the time in.
Yeah,
just constantly just getting better and better, and it's kind of a slow churn. And here they are making a little run at the title. 13 36 years old.
Honestly, that's kind of like great to see for both her and Modafferi, is that they both are fighters who've been at this a while. They're in there, they're on the wrong side of 35, but they've continued improving every fight, and they're still tough. They still have a really well-rounded skill set. And like I said, it's not like women's flyweight right now is full of dominant contenders outside the champ. It's not women's strawweight where you have somebody like Rose Namajunas or Jessica Andrade or Joanna Jędrzejczyk who don't have the belt but are going to whip almost everybody else that comes knocking on the door.
Right.
It's not that division. So
yeah,
somebody like Murphy absolutely can make a run. All right, that brings us to our opening prelim. Austin Hubbard, Max Roskopf, and this is a good, solid, pointed debate.
Yes, it is.
Roskopf had a great first round, had a terrible second round, but he finished it on his feet. He was getting tagged up, beat up, clearly gassed. It was probably a 10-8 for Hubbard. I'm looking at the stats here.
Yeah, you had to have been.
Hubbard, 45-6 in strikes landed. So really probably had to be a 10-8 for Hubbard in round 2. And then at the end of the second round, Roskopf goes back to his corner and he quit on the stool. He just says, I don't have it. I don't want to do this. I'm done. And the corner was like, got to get back out there. You got to go in there. You got to keep fighting. You got to keep going. And Roskopf didn't. Fight was over right then. I am honestly of the mind. I'm very much a person, who's like, corners should be stopping fights. Refs should be stopping fights. Fighters, I don't ever expect them to stop fight. But I kind of feel like everybody was right here and made solid calls. Because I get that Roskopf, I don't know how to say his name, so I'm just going to if I say it 10 different ways, I apologize. But Roskopf, he's a young fighter learning the ropes. And if you're cornering a young guy like that, who's got a ton of potential, who's a great athlete, a lot of fighting is made out of pushing people past their limits.
This is true.
Like, a lot of coaching in athletics, a lot of coaching people to become high-level athletes is pushing them and punishing them and convincing them to do more than they think they can do. And in this situation, even as much as Roskopf was getting beat up, I don't fault the corner for trying to see if he still had something still had something left.
Nah, I don't fault the corner either.
Like,
the reason I don't fault the corner is the same reason I don't fault the referee, because the fight should not have been stopped. I'm going to just call him Max. How about that?
Yeah, Max. There we go.
Max was still fighting, still swinging. He was getting tagged a lot, but he was still there. He wasn't Frank Camacho out there.
No.
He was still in it.
Yeah.
So the ref had every right to not stop the fight. He goes to his corner. He says he doesn't have it. He wants to quit. His corner's like, we think you have more. That's fine. That's all good and well. And then Max took it upon himself to tell the referee and the ringside physician that he can no longer fight. And that's totally okay.
Yeah.
That is totally okay.
It is a great sense of self-preservation to be like, look, I've had 10 less fights than this dude. This was a huge step up for me. I took it on short notice. I am gassed. I am getting beat up. This is not a good idea for me any longer.
Yeah.
And take it into your own hands. The fighter always has the ability to take it into their own hands to stop a fight.
But then this raises another point, though. Since this is so rare, you have to question whether or not Max has it to be a fighter.
Yes.
Does he have it in him? If he's willing to quit on himself, because look at Anthony Smith.
Yeah.
Anthony Smith would never do that.
I mean, a major mark of what makes great fighters is self-delusion and a complete lack of self-preservation.
Right.
A sense that they are always in any fight, that they can beat anyone at any time.
And that's the whole reason I hold referees and corners accountable.
Sure.
Because it's I put it on them to prevent the fighters who have that mentality from hurting themselves and keeping themselves in situations they shouldn't be in.
Anthony Smith had teeth knocked out and called the referee a coward for apologizing for stopping his fight.
Yeah.
Like, there is fighters, that is the mentality that makes a pro fighter, because if you believe that you are absolutely never going to be beaten, never out of a fight, never in a position where you need to have the fight stopped, you might be right. And it's the people that are right that become champions. It's one of those things of like the delusion. Even if you're delusional, you could still be right. You could still, you can
rise to the occasion and
like,
be
Anderson
something
Silva
special.
or Fedor Emelianenko or, Khabib Nurmagomedov. They may think they can beat anyone at any time, at any place in the world. And that's delusional thinking. Like, that's not reality, but they might be right.
This is a short notice fight. We do need to say that.
Yeah.
Super short notice. But to be honest, if this guy's anywhere near your division, you look at this fight and say, okay, I can break him.
Yeah.
I can break him in two rounds. Yep. So it's tough. I also have to say, if you want to quit an MMA fight, mid-MMA fight, by all means, quit.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want anyone out there who doesn't legitimately want to be out there.
Self-preservation is a very good thing. It's just not what typically makes fighters.
Right.
That's it. Like, having a great sense of self-preservation is a really good idea. It's why I'm happy to see anybody walk away from MMA in the middle of their career. Like Henry Cejudo, I like watching Henry Cejudo fight a lot. If he's not coming back, I'm fine with that. Like, live a life free of brain damage, my man.
Absolutely.
But it's not a mark of the breed. It's not how fighters tend to become great fighters. They don't become that by being really concerned about how much damage they're taking.
And it's almost as like the corner would not allow him to put it on them.
Yeah. And like I say, in this case, I'm the person who's like, no, the corner should absolutely be looking out for their guy. They should be throwing in the towel. Hubbard was beating Max Roshkop up. I'm not denying that. But I don't blame them with a young fighter like this, a really hot prospect, against a guy who in Hubbard is kind of treading water at the bottom of the lightweight division. I don't blame them for being like, no, we really think you should try going back out there and getting it done. And I don't blame Roshkop for being like, no, I can't. Sorry, fight's over.
The fact is, though, he was unable to gather himself in between rounds after a really tough round.
Yeah.
And, it's only going to get harder from here.
Yep. That's the thing, is that like, the reason that I'm not being harder on the corner is that there's not a step back here. There's not a easier fight in the lightweight division than Austin Hubbard.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that Austin Hubbard is like worse than all the other lightweights in the division, but he's
towards
very
the bottom.
He's very clearly in that like bottom third of guys that are just like, they're not the best athlete, they're not the best technician, they're tough, and they're willing to go out there and put it all on the line and create tough fights. but they're not, it's not like he went out there and got matched up against, Islam Makhachev or something.
Right. Yeah, it's not a good look. It's definitely not a good look.
Yeah.
And very rare.
I feel for Max deeply because it is the suckiest, worst way to have a debut go.
And maybe this is an eye-opener. Maybe he's like, this sport isn't for me. And that's totally okay. That's Absolutely. Totally fine. I remember, I think the last fight I saw where someone stopped it themselves was, it was Patricio Pitbull and Benson Henderson when Patricio broke his leg.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I broke my leg. I can't fight anymore. Totally understandable. And, sometimes it happens. But I think this is a different case where it just might not be for him.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like, this is not, MMA is not a thing that tends to pay off big and be like an awesome long-term life choice. If it's not for you, there are other ways to make a living,
Absolutely.
There are other chances to get $25,000 a year for the next 5 years.
Oh, that makes it even worse.
Sorry, but like that's just like it's one of those things where I have no hate for him at all, but it is a reasonable reason to question whether MMA is for him. And like there's a reason I don't fight, because I would take some really terrible damage and I'd be like, nah, not for me. Not my thing.
No, I hear you.
And I mean, I've sparred and things like that, and I like it. I like getting hit. I just don't want to break my nose and lose a bunch of teeth and have my ears go all weird.
Or get CTE.
Yeah, or get CTE. I mean,
all right. We should probably wrap things up now.
yeah. Fair. End of the day, Curtis Blaydes, he got the win he needed to get, but not, I think, the win he really wanted to get to make him an undeniable, this man must fight for the title right now contender.
Yeah. Looking at what Ngannou just did to Rosenstrike.
Yep.
Like this is, I don't even remember this fight anymore, and it just happened.
Yep. And right before that, Emmett and Burgos stole the whole show. Fight of the year contender. Must see. You miss everything else on this card, you got to see that fight. Absolutely terrific. So thanks everyone for tuning in. You can find me on Twitter at Zane Simon. You can find Eddie on Twitter at Eddie Mercado. And we'll be back next week after UFC on ESPN, Poirier versus Hooker.